My good friends, this new channel, Topic Arlo, has afforded me the opportunity to create content that is much more casual than usual, and I used to only do Nintendo Direct predictions during like the old E3 days when we knew there was gonna be a big, huge thing in June or whatever, but I haven't really been doing that kind of thing recently, but now, why not? Of course we're gonna do it. Of course we're gonna talk about it. Here's the thing though, you know me. This is not going to be a simple predictions video. This is not going to just be me listing off the games that I think will be there. No, Arlo has to treat this like a puzzle. We gotta logic this out. We're gonna get into what really might be at the show. And we're gonna end up being dead wrong, but that does not stop us from having fun. So naturally, the number one question on everyone's minds, mine certainly, it's the holiday game. What is going to be the big holiday game this year if the Nintendo Switch has one more big game, one more ace up its sleeve? What could it be? But of course, this is complicated. This is very complicated. As we've all talked about endlessly, the Switch 2 was probably going to launch later this year, and it got delayed into next year, according to the rumors, which I believe. And of course, most of Nintendo's staff is probably working on Switch 2 games right now. Like, why would they not? You gotta put most of your eggs in that basket. And all of those games are gonna be top secret. We're not talking about Switch 2 at this show. And you could imagine that Nintendo probably doesn't want to release any more big, huge games on Switch. Why would they, if they've got Switch 2 coming so soon? It seems like that would be a missed opportunity to get people hyped up and ready to jump onto the Switch 2 train. There's the idea that some of these games could be cross-gen, especially if the Switch 2 was originally going to come out this year, but that comes with its own problems. They're not going to want to announce those games right now before the Switch 2 itself is even announced, before we can even see the better graphics, the fancy Switch 2 versions. They're not going to want to show us the lesser versions now. And then of course, like just overall, Nintendo's not going to want to release these big huge games on Switch first and then treat the Switch 2 launches of the games later like an afterthought. That would use up the hype. The hype cycle would be over. Then by the time the Switch 2 came out, you would get some people who wanted to jump on it, especially if there was like the newer version. I don't know if there would be like an upgrade system or something. Who even knows? But like a substantial number of the people would just be like, I played that already. I'm just not that interested in playing it on Switch 2 yet. So yeah, it's complicated. It's really complicated, and I am inclined to believe that any big games that were originally going to launch later this year have probably just been delayed. They've just been delayed and, into next year for the launch of the Switch 2. This year has already been a lot of stopgap games, remakes, remasters, smaller titles. So, like, why not continue on and just have one quiet holiday, one kind of a breather year. Still not even that bad of a year. We got 1,000 Year Door, so like, there you go. So why not just coast through the rest of the calendar year, have a quiet holiday, maybe you don't have a big, huge holiday game this time, whatever, you just push the same old Mario Kart bundle you've been pushing this whole entire time, and you're good. Then you've got all of these games to really just kickstart the Switch 2 generation early next year. The thing is though, Nintendo is unpredictable, and we are hearing rumors that it's gonna be a good one. And those are just rumors. They might not be true, but rumors have been true more and more often recently, and there's a lot of rumblings that it's gonna be a pretty darn good Direct. And I cannot rule out the idea that the Switch will have one last strictly exclusive swan song, especially if Nintendo is going to offer like performance patches on Switch 2, if it's fully backwards compatible, even if you don't get a full cross-gen release with better graphics, even if it's just, hey, if you play it on your Switch 2, the performance is going to be better, even that right there supports the idea that there really might be one more big, amazing game coming to Switch. So if I'm thinking big games, big, hypey games, in my mind, two things: 3D Mario or Metroid Prime 4. But both have big problems. They're both long overdue and would be very exciting, so therefore they are good candidates, but yeah, they got problems. Mario is, of course, very, very overdue. By this holiday, it'll be almost 4 years since Bowser's Fury, and Bowser's Fury was a snack. It was a bite-sized Mario game. It'll actually be going on 8 years at the end of this year since the last full 3D Mario game, and considering it's Mario, it's the flagship series, these games sell like crazy. Odyssey sold like crazy. Like, the fruit of the 3D Mario tree is overripe. It is bursting. The juice is starting to spew out. Somebody please pick this fruit. It's gotta be coming any second. But since it is so inevitable and it's going to be so successful, why would they not just wait for Switch 2? That is a heck of a system seller. 3D Mario, day one, especially if the rumors are true and it's gonna be like a big, huge, maybe even sort of open world kind of thing. It's gonna be the biggest Mario ever. Why would you put that on the Switch seconds before the Switch 2 launches? No, you're gonna wanna use that to sell your new system. Usually 3D Mario comes within the first year of a system's life. Yeah, but what if they just jumped off the extremely over-the-top successful Switch into Switch 2 with just a rocket boost of a 3D Mario game? That would be too good an opportunity to pass up. And then again, if this is cross-gen, why would you spend the hype on the Switch version and then release later on the Switch 2 with just way less fanfare, way less incentive for people to make the jump if they have played it already? And they could reveal the game this year and announce it for next year. You know, a direct can be good even if it doesn't announce a game that's coming this year, if it just announces the game at all, but then that's awkward. They're only showing us the Switch graphics version of the game and then later giving us like a new trailer with even better graphics. That would be silly. So that's the big problem with Mario. Now let's talk about Metroid Prime. Also, obviously, long overdue. By this holiday, it will have been nearly 6 years, not since the reveal, but since the restart, since they rebooted development. And that is more than enough time for even a big, humongous AAA game. That's a Zelda kind of timeline right there. So it absolutely could happen. It's been a long time coming. Hopefully, they've got to be pretty close to completion now. But I'm gonna dig into the past here based on the hires, based on we used to get we haven't for a while, but we used to get all these news stories back when I was doing Nintendo Roundup. All these stories about Nintendo, Retro Studios hiring these like AAA game industry veterans, people who worked on like Tomb Raider and God of War. And based on all of that, I do not think this is gonna be a Switch game. It could be cross-gen, maybe. Retro Studios is very talented and I could see them making a surprisingly good Switch version, even if the main game on the Switch 2 is very graphically intensive and all that stuff. But my gut tells me Metroid Prime 4 is a Switch 2 game. It's gonna have incredible, amazing graphics. It's gonna basically be on par with the rest of the industry's AAA games. That's why they made all of those hires. I think it's gonna be a graphical showcase for the new system. And then the other obvious issue, Metroid Prime 4 would be really big for us Metroid fans. It would be a very big hype cycle. It would be exciting. We would get all these reactions and stuff from the Direct, but that's not exactly a holiday game. It's Metroid. Historically, Metroid does not sell very well. And it could be that Nintendo is just putting a ton of money into this thing and they plan on like hoping that this does expand the fan base. Maybe if we can put enough money into a Metroid game and make it look just big enough, that alone will kind of prop it up. You know, you put it in front of everybody for the holiday and suddenly it is the big new Nintendo game and that actually helps grow it. It's possible, but it doesn't seem super likely, and especially because of the whole Switch 2 conundrum. I just can't see them revealing it now if it's also going to be on Switch 2, and why would they have waited this long to make the game if it's just going to end up releasing on Switch and not even being this big, huge, crazy new Switch 2 next-gen thing. It's just another Metroid Prime game. So, That's 3D Mario and that's Metroid Prime 4. Both seem unlikely to me for various reasons. So if not those, what else do we got? In my eyes, that leaves another option, kind of like one rung down. Games that are a bit smaller, but still very, very exciting. Still the kinds of games that the announcements would still make us all go crazy. Games that could easily launch on Switch and make good money for Nintendo and make us happy without feeling like a missed opportunity not launching first on Switch 2. Because, you know, the Switch 2 is going to have plenty of its own big new games. They've got probably almost everybody working on Switch 2 games right now. This right here is the sweet spot. This is what I think Nintendo is going to aim for. And to me, nothing fits better here than 2D Zelda. 2D Zelda is plenty popular, not as popular as 3D Zelda, especially considering the sales of, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, but historically, these games still sell very well. The Link's Awakening remake still sold very, very well. This is also long overdue. We have not had an original 2D Zelda game on Switch, which is criminal. Don't get me started. And even the Link's Awakening remake is 5 years old this year. Seriously, don't get me started. Just very tempted to go on a massive angry rant about it. Point is though, it's overdue, and historically 2D Zeldas are good sellers. The question then is, are we looking at another remake or an original? A remake would almost certainly be a remake of the Oracle games. Could be Minish Cap, maybe, but I feel like Oracle is probably your best bet. Link to the Past is also technically possible, but that game already had a re-release on the Game Boy Advance and a spiritual successor sequel kind of thing in the same world on the 3DS, so it seems less likely to me. The Oracle games are next in line logically. They are less beloved than Link's Awakening, so maybe that would be less of a surefire win. But if both of the Oracle games are in one game, that would help, because that's just a tremendous amount of content. I mean, if you could sell a million-year-old Game Boy game on the Switch for full price and make a good amount of money, oh, what about 2 games in one? It's a lot more content. But then if you want to go down that route, that's also a problem because, I love Nintendo, but they're stingy as heck. They probably don't want to put 2 games in one package, but they also know that separate games wouldn't really work, so they might just never remake the Oracle games because of just that conundrum right there. But however you look at it though, remaking the Oracle games, remaking anything is gonna be easier. They already remade Link's Awakening, they have the engine, they have the art style. I will be mad if they use the same art style again. I don't want it to all look like toys, that's silly. But a remake using most of the same stuff from Link's Awakening, that would be cheap, and it would be a win. However, I am going with original game. That's my prediction. The big game this Nintendo Direct is gonna be an original 2D Zelda, a top-down Zelda. I think top-down Zelda is gonna be a harder sell when everything on the Switch 2 is $70 and the graphics on these games are just super duper amazing. It's gonna be harder to sell these kind of smaller scale games, and that is a whole discussion for another day of how smaller scale games will survive on Switch 2. But that's why right now, a new 2D Zelda seems like a really, really good fit for Switch. That's a perfect holiday title, not the biggest reach ever, it's not like a new 3D Zelda, it's not like a Mario or a Mario Kart or something, but still very, very solid. It's still gonna sell a really good number of copies, and it's still gonna be very, very exciting for the fan base. It hits that sweet spot of big enough, but not so big that it interferes with this whole Switch 2 cross-gen conundrum. However, I will say that even if I'm right, we end up getting a 2D Zelda and not anything Mario or Metroid, I still see a Metroid Prime 4 teaser that doesn't necessarily reveal graphics or any details, but something tells me that when they finally get around to showing us something for Metroid Prime 4 again, maybe they'll just show us the big, huge trailer, just giant reveal. I could just see a teaser. If they know they're getting close and they know that we know Switch 2 is coming very, very soon, I could see them dropping this tiny little tidbit of a Metroid Prime 4 thing. So I'm adding that to my predictions. We're getting an original 2D Zelda, and there will also be a Metroid Prime 4 teaser. And on that note, let's go for another prediction, and this is following the prediction that I made in my yearly predictions video, Super Metroid Remake. That is also very likely. It seems inevitable to me. And that kind of game, it's probably not big enough for like a holiday release. Definitely not. But it would still be very exciting. There would still be loads of hype. Everybody would be talking about it. It's Super Metroid. It's a beloved game. It's been 3 years since Metroid Dread. That's plenty of time to make a remake of Super in the Dread engine. To me, this is another title that would be perfect for the final year of Switch, where we've got all of these remakes and remasters. It's just perfect. And just like 2D Zelda, it's another 2D game that might end up being a bit of a harder sell on new hardware at a higher price. But the Switch itself is a much, much better fit for it. So those are my main predictions. I don't have too many other, like, smaller ones. If we don't get a 2D Zelda, then the final year of the Switch would be a fine time to finally pull them Twilight Princess and Wind Waker remasters out of their back pocket, you know? Saving those for a rainy day, especially because there has been something of a precedent from Nintendo for releasing some Zelda-related project every year. I feel like the last few years has really not been as consistent, but there was once a time when they even said it, and they were doing it. Something Zelda-related every year. So like, yeah, why not? We've all just been waiting for these remasters. Why not? Now, I will say, technically, it's not just as simple as porting it over, because they remastered these games and then went through all of the work of integrating the second screen, and then they have to undo that. They have to disintegrate the whole second screen thing from the games, which is probably annoying, but the games are still sitting right there. They're just waiting. That's easy money. It pleases all the Zelda fans, makes them some money. Everyone wins. And then, like, there's other potential stuff. I mean, like Pokemon. We know that Pokemon Legends ZA is not coming this year, and there have been no other announcements made from the Pokemon company, so we're probably just, like, not getting a big Pokemon game this year. If we do, maybe, like, a small spin-off or something that they'll announce later. I don't know. Mario Sports is always, is always a possibility. You know, they're simple, smaller budget. Would make sense. Wouldn't be the big holiday title, but it could be announced. But that's really what I got, and of course, I'll fully admit, Nintendo could surprise us, you know? I'm trying to use logic based on the whole Switch 2 delay and all of this stuff, but it's Nintendo. They could just completely surprise it. It could just be the new 3D Mario. Here it is, boom. Doesn't make sense. Is it gonna be on Switch 2? I don't know. But here it is. We're Nintendo. We don't do what you expect. You don't get to understand us. So I have to admit, fully possible. Could just be the reveal Metroid Prime 4, there it is. But right now, I'm going with new 2D Zelda, Super Metroid Remake, Metroid Prime 4 teaser. Those are my predictions for the June 2024 Nintendo Direct. Now, I do have to say, I hope that it doesn't seem like I'm just predicting these things because I want them. Generally, when I'm trying to predict, I try not to just base it on what I want. I will admit, though, a little suspicious. New 2D Zelda and Super Metroid Remake with a Metroid Prime 4 teaser. That would be a very, very good direct for me. I'm not gonna lie. I'd say in this case, this is one of those rare cases where my prediction that I feel is very logical, based on what I think really might actually happen, just happens to line up pretty perfectly with exactly what I want. Oh, and on that note, I might as well throw in another actually really reasonable prediction that is something that I want. Pikmin 4 DLC. Pikmin 4 DLC, where is it? Where is it? We've never had a Pikmin game that was a better fit for DLC. Where is the Pikmin 4 DLC? Here it is. It's coming. That's the other thing. Add that to the list. Pikmin 4 DLC, or I am gonna flip out.